with a rebel stitch and a heart of grit. Every seam has a little bit. Let the chaos and the colors blend. A masterpiece that never has to end. Yeah, it's perfectly imperfect!
So when I was a child, I loved dolls. My first one was a gift from my grandparents, who had gone out during the craze with the Cabbage Patch dolls and bought one each for my sister and I. Mine had red hair, and I absolutely loved her, I cherished her, and I still have her to this day. And later on, many years later, into my late teens, early adulthood, I started collecting porcelain dolls because I thought they were absolutely beautiful, and they are. They were well crafted, and the outfits were amazing, and I just loved how they looked. And I had a good collection, about maybe 8 or 9 of them, and I cherished them for years. I had them out on my stand. They were even in my senior pictures. However, I was an idiot and caught on to portions of the Chucky movie, and that was enough to ruin that whole thing for me. And that ruined things for me. And slowly I began to realize that beautiful dolls that I collected weren't so beautiful anymore, and they creeped me out. And it was dumb, but in the back of my mind, I could imagine them hopping off their stands and coming to get me in the middle of the night. So that's how my brain worked back then. So slowly they were, packed away and eventually donated. I just couldn't bear to have them in the house with me. So fast forward to about a year ago, just a couple of months before last July, where I was looking through the packages of stuffing at Walmart, and I found one that had a picture of this beautiful rag doll on the back of the package, and I suddenly wanted one that looked like a little, gothic butterfly doll with wings, and I really wanted to have one. I thought I could make it, and I assumed that the pattern was included, and so I looked on the website, and it was nowhere to be found. But I was not to be stopped. I was determined to have this doll. So I went over to Pinterest, and they also had beautiful dolls, but again, there were no patterns that I could use. And so finally, my last ditch effort to have a rag doll like this was to go to YouTube, where I found a bunch of tutorials, and eventually found one that worked for me. And it took me a little while to get the stitches right and to figure out what needles I needed and what thread I needed, and I was very happy. And halfway through the first doll I made, when all those old memories came back of haunted dolls, and that includes all the scary Chucky movies and that Ghost Adventure episodes involving haunted dolls that moved around. Very funny. Please excuse the Bone Maestro. He's being silly. Anyway, so all those old memories came back, and I was trying to figure out ways that I could still have my rag dolls without them coming to life and trying to kill me in the middle of the night. So I thought for a little bit, and I came up with the idea of putting little scripture verses into the doll's body as I was stuffing them to hopefully ward off evil. And that doesn't make much sense to the people who don't believe, but that worked for me. And so ever since then, I've with every doll I've made, I put a scripture verse in them according to the theme of the doll, and that works for me, and I'll most likely keep doing it. And that also leads to my slogan on the channel, 4th time's the charm, because it took me 4 times to get the ragdoll pattern right, and that ended up being the doll I gave to my aunt. And I would show it to you guys, but I was so excited to wrap it up and give it to her that I never took a picture of it. And so I could eventually in the future ask my aunt to take a picture of it, but it's not really a priority right now. Anyway, it's been a very long journey, from the idea of having a doll to the 3 Easter sisters that I recently finished and will now include pictures of. And these 3 dolls were also the first time I ever was able to make noses for the dolls. And like when I first saw the video tutorial, I couldn't figure out how to make the nose happen because my fingers are not very dexterous, and I couldn't do the little fiddly bits to make it happen. So I just didn't do it. But for these 2 sisters, I managed to make noses for them, and I am so happy with how they came out. So without further ado, I give you Wispy Willow, Bunny Julep, and Petal Pusher. And I hope you guys like them. Thanks for listening to my story.
With a rebel stitch and a heart of grit, every seam has a little bit. Let the chaos and the colors blend. A